So PUBG released a full-on roadmap of what they're planning for the game in detail in terms of content and also, otherwise core gameplay mechanics. Finally get some really solid details about stuff like new maps, the Kiki map that's coming out, the Sanhok rollback, and even Vikendi is getting another remaster later in the year. So beyond that, there's like a ton to talk about today. So it might end up being a pretty long video, but it's going to be very loaded regardless. And they do mention in this roadmap that while a lot of this stuff is still subject to change, this is the basic outline or layout for what, generally speaking, they're going to be adding in 2022. And I have a lot of thoughts about this stuff, and I do think that there are some changes that are needed to be made for this roadmap, but we'll get into that. But all in all, it is looking like a pretty exciting year for PUBG, so we're going to unpack all this stuff. But if you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, that'd be awesome. Subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. And I do have a PUBG creator code that you can add to your account. The link to that's in the description. I made it super easy, and if you do end up using my code, it does support the channel, so make sure to let me know in the comments so that I can thank you. So in this dev plan image they show us, they talk a lot about the weapon balancing maps and other stuff that's coming, like really big piece of content. But also, if you see out of game, there are smoke grenade cosmetics. I just want to touch on this really quickly. Basically, I think we're not only going to be getting smoke grenade skins, but also you'll be able to change the color of the smoke itself, which is a suggestion I recall making like 2 or 3 years ago. So it is good to see that they're doing this. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it looks like that is coming. But anyways, I want to talk about the Sanhok rollback, and I'm just going to tell you directly what they said. They believe Sanhok is one of the areas you've been pretty vocal about. We've attempted a few changes in effort to modernize Sanhok, but at the end of the day, many of you still prefer playing the original map. So what they're going to be doing is bringing original Sanhok back in its current form, and from what it appears, they're working on a Sanhok 3.0, which is, I guess, a remaster of the map, and in the meantime, after Sanhok, the rollback is done, they'll bring in the new version and see if people like it. But I do think that's subject to change still. Like, if people don't like the 3.0 version, they might literally just roll with old Sanhok from here on out. I don't know, but that's kind of what they're making it sound like. And it's worth noting what that means, though, is the old Sanhok's coming back. So many of the features they introduced with new Sanhok, such as the loot trucks, and then also, like, the secret areas you could find in the new version of the map are going to be completely removed. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it from here on out, but they will be gone in the, I guess, rolled back version of the map. So we'll see how that plays out. Next up, let's talk about new guns. If you watched my previous leaks video, we discussed the MP9 that was allegedly coming to the game, and to an extent, I do believe this is still being worked on and will be added, but they just haven't mentioned it in this roadmap, because they do mention a new 7.62 assault rifle is coming, and this is essentially the Galil. Now, in terms of its effectiveness and where this is going to fit in the meta, they claim this Galil, traditionally 7.62 ARs are big damage, but really difficult to control, i.e. the barrel. However, this weapon is supposed to serve as a bit of a bridge between the barrel and the AKM, where it's a little bit lower damage and, but easier to control as opposed to the barrel. I guess this is a cross between the two, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But at the same time, this is the only gun they revealed in the roadmap, and besides the MP9 leaks, which, supposedly was worked on at one time or another, I would like to see more than one gun added throughout the entire year. You know what I mean? Like, if it's only the Galil for the rest of 2022, that's a little bit sinister. I mean, I don't think that'll be the case, and obviously everything on the roadmap, or I guess everything they are developing, isn't listed in the roadmap, so I'm hoping there's more than one gun throughout the entire year, but at least we are getting this pretty soon. Next, I'm just going to get this out of the way really quickly. They're working on some really big, like, training mode improvements, and, some of it's cool stuff, like there's going to be ability to 1v1 somebody, there's, like, PvP combat practice, there's some, sound and aim training you can do as well, and I guess a lot of this is going to be overhauled, but if I'm being completely honest with you, I think a lot of the training mode content efforts are in vain, because a very, very, very small number of people, I feel like, utilize training mode to any real extent. I can definitely appreciate the fact that they're still working on training mode, attempting to make it better, but to an extent, it feels like a lot of the effort goes just sort of in vain on that, but it is what it is, I guess. Next, let's talk about Paramo. We haven't talked about this in a while. So this map, when it comes back in the rotation, is getting what they call a Paramo World sub update. I've never really heard them refer to it like this before. I guess it's like kind of like a diet remaster, but basically they're just going to be rearranging some of the terrain, the positioning. There are some broken spots in Paramo for sure, and they don't really go into any detail at all about how they're changing the map, but they are tweaking this and rearranging it to some extent. So Paramo is going to be vastly different, or at least moderately different, from the last time we've seen it. And again, this is really the open-ended question, because they don't talk about in any great detail at all about what exactly is changing with Paramo. Now, to be honest, I haven't played Paramo in a really long time, so I may not even, I guess, have a good baseline comparison of what the original was like compared to when we played the new one. And again, don't get it confused with a remaster, similar like an Erangel coming back, completely different. I think this is just like a rearranging of some sort. Speaking of maps, let's talk about Kiki, which is the new 8x8 map that they've been literally teasing since 2021. 2021 and that roadmap as well. I'm just going to read out what they say. Kiki is quite unique in its diversity, featuring not only crowded cities full of near-future buildings, but vast grasslands, dense swamps, and more. We're pretty excited about this one and are looking forward to getting it out to you soon. Here's a bit more on Kiki. We've been talking about it since the 2021 dev plan. We'll be releasing in Q3 this year. So the look and feel of Kiki is basically a near-future city that's been ravaged by the elements, dangerous storms, powerful floods, and of course, time. They've all contributed to the downfall of this once thriving city. Built upon a tamed frontier, the lands around Kiki still very much belong to nature, with a blend of rocky highlands, floral plains, and dense swamps, with bits of 21st century civilization dotted throughout. It's a battleground unlike anything we've built before, and we're excited to see Kiki inhabited once again. Now, there's some new mechanics coming with Kiki that are worth talking about. So, of course, as we know from the map, there's going to be tons of verticality in tall buildings, but they do mention they took lessons from Haven because that was, a severely urban map. They mention in Kiki that not all of the buildings can be explored. There's certain buildings that maybe only have one playable space or vice versa, just so it doesn't get lost in translation like I really think it did with Haven. I think this is a good move, although it does sacrifice the fact that you cannot explore every building to the fullest extent, but I think it is going to be better for gameplay. Now, in terms of getting around, because there's such verticality, they're adding ascenders, or what are basically like grapple hooks, or if you've played Warzone at all, this is pretty much how you use verticality in that game, and it looks like they're going to be attempting to implement that in PUBG, which I think that can work pretty well. And they mention in regards to more Kiki features, they're adding a brand new vehicle, which is an airboat. It basically specializes in land-sea traversal. It should be pretty fun to play with, and there's a lot of, ankle-deep water in Kiki, so they're trying to make from what they claim, some cat and mouse gameplay without having the need to swim all the time. And they do say additional features, they're going to, continue to add new pieces of gear and also new weapons and vehicles to the map. So it's not like we're just going to be getting, from what this says, one new gun for the entire year. I imagine there's still a lot of surprises coming after this does get released. Now, if I recall correctly, Kiki was supposed to be released this year in Q2, which I guess would have been about the middle of the year, but it's looking like Q3 now, which if it means we get a more quality map and a better gameplay experience, then I'm all for waiting, and I think that's a good idea. And there is, I guess, another map coming in Q4, but and this is one of the criticisms that we'll talk about a little bit later, but we are getting I guess, another remaster of Vikendi. This one's called Vikendi Reborn. Now, let me just go ahead and read what they say about this one. Being one of the most visually unique battlegrounds, Vikendi still has room for additional implementation of new features and areas for more core gameplay moments. Therefore, we're planning a grand remake towards the end of the year. Although Vikendi provides unique visuals, it has room for improvements and new features and core gameplay. Being well aware of that, we decided to remake Vikendi. That's basically all they said. I don't really have any problem with this on paper. I just feel like making draft after draft of the same map is a little bit less impactful than completely, making a brand new map or just doing something very different with the core gameplay. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to hold out that this version of Vikendi is going to be any better than the previous ones until I actually play it, but I really do hope it is. So next they get into what is an arcade mode overhaul, and this is something I've been talking a lot about in my past few videos, where TDM really was the only thing they ever added to arcade, and there's still 2 slots for these coming soon modes that just never got added. Now, they do completely acknowledge that in here, and they do say that developing content simultaneously and running PUBG labs to test modes and features has taken attention away from arcade mode. This is something I've been saying from the very beginning. It's like a lot of the stuff they do in labs could easily just be temporary arcade modes, and I don't understand why they don't sort of, I guess, put the function of these 2 types and categories together. Anyways, they say in the second half of the year, we plan to overhaul arcade mode to add more game types and a new reward system for players who enjoy arcade, because there really isn't much incentive if you enjoy playing TDM, and really the only mode that exists. But I guess not only they're going to be adding new modes, but also more incentives and reasons to play, which is huge. This is a really good thing, and this is one of the things I was going to say. More incentives and more reward for playing, and I'm not even meaning just external rewards, but just like rewarding gameplay in and of itself is what will bring people back and keep them playing if done right. Now, in terms of other leaks, we have apparently gliders are going to be getting removed at some point during the year. I don't know when this is happening, but I think they're either going to be reworking the way that gliders function or just completely taking them out of the game for a little bit, maybe indefinitely until something else changes. Now, in terms of tactical gear, I'll let you guys know both the tactical pack and the spotter scope were completely overpowered and broken when they were first implemented to the game, and they've changed it to where weapons that are now stored in the bag will no longer be loaded, which is great. It was completely just like actually meta breaking the fact that you could carry 4 loaded weapons in the tactical bag. They're going to be significantly reworking the spotter scope because it's basically an aimbot at this point in a lot of cases, and Dave Kurt has been very vocal on Twitter about how this is going to be changing due to community feedback, so it's good that's getting a rebalance. But there's another piece of tactical gear that I don't know if we're going to see it be added, but it's at least worked on to some extent, and this is, I guess, a vehicle repair kit. And you know, a lot of you longtime viewers of the channel may know that this is already an item in the game. It's in custom games only, but apparently this one's a little bit different in its function and even its look. Don't really know too many details on the vehicle repair kit other than that and how it's a little bit different to the custom games build, but I guess hopefully at least some point in the near future and in some kind of update we will see that soon. So hopefully we'll have a third piece of tactical gear, and as well as reworks for the existing two. And then in terms of other real stuff on the roadmap, they talk about weapon balancing that's coming in the middle of the year. We've seen a little bit of this already, like changing the M4 and a couple of weapons, stuff like that, but I guess some more significant weapon rebalances, nerfs, and buffs are on the way, and I don't know the details of what guns are getting changed and how exactly, but that's something we're gonna have to wait and see. So I guess this is an outline, and now I wanna actually, I'll show you guys this twit longer that Choco, very popular PUBG streamer, put out in regards to this, and for the most part, I really agree with this sentiment. So to summarize this, it's basically PUBG's in a really good state right now with free-to-play, but in order to maintain that and retain players, doing Kiki is great, and obviously a new AR is good, but like for the most part, Sanhok coming back, or I guess being rolled back, and then a Vikendi remaster aren't really, you know, the I guess best places to spend their effort. Choco says that he would actually rather see Taigo get redeveloped, as that is more like still core PUBG gameplay. Sanhok for the most part, and Vikendi, while it has its fans, a lot of people also don't really like those maps. It's just like they can't really figure out what to do. They've sunk so much time just trying to like get Sanhok functional and playing well, and then Vikendi going for another remaster. It's like sinking all this time into maps that a lot of people can't either even play or generally even like a whole lot, to be real. Basic idea of this post and what a lot of people have been saying about this roadmap is like a lot of this stuff is great, but also we just need more incentives and changes to the core gameplay that make people want to play again. And for a lot of people, ranked mode doesn't really do it because it's not really that functional. You know, traditional leaderboards, I guess the early leaderboards of PUBG still like aren't around anymore, and some people want a system like that back. It's just better and more incentives to play the game, and changes and improvements to the core gameplay of PUBG I ultimately think is what is going to retain players. That is the sentiment that I really do agree with. Like I said earlier, this is a rough roadmap of what to expect. It's not an all-encompassing plan for the entire year, so I do hope there's a lot more surprises and some readjustments in the works, and that they take community feedback to not only, you know, the rest of the game, but even this roadmap into account as they go throughout the year, and I do want to see them do well. Last thing I want to talk about, and I'm not sure how many people are really going to care about this, but for those of you who are interested in blockchain stuff, it looks like Krafton, who is PUBG's parent company, is actually partnered with Solana, and I don't know what to make of this. I don't know what interpretation this is going to have for what they're doing with the game. I just am giving you the facts of this situation here, so we'll see where that goes. I'm not making any judgments or comments on this at the time, but it is just an observation that I've noticed. Yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Let me know what you guys think of the roadmap down below in the comment section. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're brand new for more PUBG content, and I did upload a full PUBG storyline video. If you guys haven't checked that out on my channel, it's probably one of the best videos I've ever made. Definitely make sure to go give it a look if you haven't seen it, and also before you go, you can use my creator code if you haven't done already. Link to that is obviously in the description. So thank you guys for watching once again. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day, but I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll see you all in the next one.